Two, one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a podcast channel where we talk to PropTech founders and CEOs from all over the world and learn from them how they build and manage world-class PropTech companies. Today we have one such founder with me. Very excited and thrilled to welcome Barret Newberry. He's the CEO of Leasera, that helps renters and property managers live and work better. Leasera was recently named on CRE Tech's hot list as one of the top companies to discover in real estate and as a leading tech site to discover. Before this podcast just went live, Barret, I just chanced upon his post on LinkedIn where he mentioned something about rental ecosystems. He wrote, rental ecosystems today is a siloed market with significant misalignment and fragmentation. The future is wildly accessible, personalized, and incredibly appreciative of those who rent, serve, and manage properties all around the world. So, Barret made it very easy for me to set the theme of this podcast. And that's exactly where we'll pick from. So, let's get started with understanding the rental ecosystem. So, Barret, welcome to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
So appreciation is mutual here, Barret. So as I said, thank you for setting the context. Why don't we get started with the basics here? Help us understand what do you mean by rental ecosystems, and what did you mean by the post that you just made?
Yeah, and it's hard because we've been there's a history to everything, right? We ended up in this current rental ecosystem that we're in intentionally, but there are some unintentional consequences because of all of that. And so if you look at it historically, you look at the fact that really property management exists to support the investor body, the investor community. And the investor community is focused on two things. It's making sure that they protect that asset, and then of course making sure that that asset appreciates over time. Right. If they want to sell it, if they want to just obviously grow their portfolio, reinvest, these are all things that are really focused around those two qualities. Right. The problem is that none of those qualities have much to do with the renter, and as time has progressed, so too has the importance of consumer demand. And so consumer demand has really changed everything. And then it accelerated through the pandemic when the industry started looking at it from a service perspective and from a product perspective and saying, oh, how do we still influence that consumer? Well, things had to become extremely convenient extremely quickly. Right. And so during the pandemic, people weren't leaving their homes. And so delivery became very important. The direct to door service became very important. Well, if you kind of date this back of where we all started here with this, is that the property management company is focused on the property, which is extremely myopic. It's extremely focused around that one thing. But the consumer has become so important. And so we're having to try and figure out, how do we integrate new consumer qualities into that property management solution and ecosystem? So all the digital tools that we had before, accounting, maintenance, leasing, let's get people in there. Let's protect the asset. Let's make sure that we manage those finances.
Right.
Well, none of that, again, is the consumer except for getting money out of their account. That's about it. Right. And so now all these new consumer opportunities are popping up, but the property management software doesn't support it. And so we're thinking about ecosystem just like we do supply chain. Like supply chain has all of these different players that you have to respect throughout that process in order to maximize efficiency, in order to maximize access, in order to maximize affordability.
Right.
So all of that is now coming to renting in a huge way. But the quickest solutions that we have today are, oh, let's bolt it on to our existing solution.
Right.
Well, it's basically just putting, as they say, lipstick on a pig. It's really taking, a broken system in today's standards, right, and simply just trying to make it a little bit better instead of tearing it all down to the studs and saying, we need to build up from a new foundation. And so when we talk about rental ecosystem, we talk about the importance of the renter being equally as important as the service provider, equally as important as the property manager, equally as important as the investor. And so that supply chain and really respecting it maximizes now your efficiencies, your affordability, your accessibility, and that partner network, as we also like to refer to it, creates incredible opportunity. I mean, it's really, truly unbound. Whereas before, if you were strictly focused on the property, it is that inevitable glass ceiling of innovation, of opportunity, of net operating income.
That was, I got an aha moment there, because I talked to a lot of people on either sides. Either a product is solving for renter experience, or there's a product that is solving for the property manager, and and the commerce is mostly on the big enterprise on the property manager side, and therefore I feel the renters are getting squeezed. Okay, so they get the short end of the stick. But are you here balancing the interest of all the players as part of the ecosystem? Is it fair to say in that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Obviously this has been an incredibly challenging journey, but I've got an incredible team, got incredible supporters, and they all see that end goal, that North Star. And they all know that North Star is something that is worth pursuing. And thankfully, we weathered some significant storms time and time again, to get to where we are today. And we were able to release REM. So that was super exciting.
Got it. So we come to REM. Just curious. So when you're I'll also ask you about your offerings and your portfolio. Is your offering sold? Who's the direct purchaser here? Who are you selling this to? Are you selling it to the renter or to the property manager? How does it get sold?
Yeah. So the beauty of ecosystem is that you can change the entire business model. When you start thinking about all the various different ways of really appreciating individuals or meeting a need on a personalized basis, you start seeing, these opportunities unfold. And so for us, what we began to realize is that the business model of per unit fees was no longer necessary. So we actually removed the fee from property managers, giving them a full featured management solution, previously in our world called property management software.
Got it.
But we're also able to give them our entire ecosystem, again, free of charge, free of those per unit fees. So us as a payments platform can look at that in a different way and saying, okay, well, we can give all these incredible integrated services, and we give, all of these groups, what was previously kind of looked at as purely institutional,
right,
and offer all of those solutions: the property management software, the on-demand services marketplace, the loyalty program and reward system. And all of that now is free, on top of a very clean and clear payments platform of where we make our money. So we make our money off of transactions instead of hopeful engagement, which is what a lot of point solutions are built off of now. We hope individuals will engage. We don't know how many of those units, consumers, property managers, or service professionals that will. And so instead, traditional property management software says, well, we have this many units, this is how much you're going to have to spend, and it is what it is.
Nice. I think this is also quite radical and novel. I've not heard anybody doing this. But I'll come back to transactions. Let's understand your offering. Let's understand what REM is, what Leasera is, and do you have more product? Let's understand your product offering first.
Yeah, so it is an entirely full-featured PMS. So it's your property management software solution that does all of your marketing, all of your leasing, all of your applications, your legal documentation, your online payments, your insurance plugins, your your various different move in, move out capabilities, your communication CRM, your maintenance workflow, vendor management, reporting, accounting. And so all of those solutions are, again, now free. And that's a really, really incredible thing. And basically what it does is it promotes an immense amount of access for what we have traditionally called long tail, which is that kind of couple thousand, maybe even less units in a single portfolio and below. And traditionally those groups looked at Appfolio and RealPage and Resman and Entrata and all of these different groups and said, well, the unit economics don't work out for me. I can't use that system because I can't afford it.
Right.
And unfortunately, the way that they created those businesses initially from accounting and maintenance and leasing tools are now so embedded and ingrained with the way that they do business today, they can't get out of their own way.
Right.
And so REM is your entire property management software solution, but also has an on-demand services marketplace. Kind of almost think of it as like your Shopify, where vendors can come in free of charge to access.
Nice.
They can set up their own storefronts. They can set up their own business locations, geolocations, and they can begin engaging in RFPs, or requests for proposals, essentially, from all of these various different players, even service professional to service professional. And because we control the payments platform, all of those transactions do take place on our system. But because they do, we can create greater appreciation towards every single one of those users. And so the last part of our system is the rewards and loyalty program. And so for a consumer, everything that they do within platform, whether it's paying their rent or booking a dog walker or booking a hotel, investing their points, they get points for all of those transactions. And so they can invest them, they can donate them to affordable housing candidates.
Wow.
So this is a self-sustained ecosystem that, again, most people just didn't want to go through the heavy lifting of building. But it's what makes us a unique group of entrepreneurs, and it's what makes us a really, really unique solution.
Nice. You mentioned booking hotels. That sounded awkward to me. Where's that use case coming from?
Yeah. So, when we were looking at it, what ultimately I had envisioned was really having a unified platform where a consumer could really have their needs served wherever they laid their head. I mean, if you want to think about it, there's been Amazon and Apple and a number of other organizations that have tried to create a lifestyle app. And I would say that Amazon on the product and services side, as well as Apple on the engagement side, probably are the closest,
right?
By all means.
Right.
But nobody has really been able to influence an individual's needs, priorities, etc., where they lay their head, under that same umbrella of, this is where I live, this is what I need, these are the location and personalized needs that I have. And I think that we've really done something remarkable here, where we can give you the same services, we can serve you with the same needs, and that money that you're spending is going to be equally appreciated for all of those transactions,
right,
through your renter's portal, or what we might say, your loyalty portal.
Got it. So it could extend in a lot of different use cases, not just hotels. No, you could actually extend it to ordering food, maybe, or
right.
I mean, all kinds of experiences that one would want from the comfort of their homes for the users, and then a marketplace for all the vendors that are offering these services to them.
Yeah, think about it this way. I mean, if you always get that one thing from Chick-fil-A, and you love this perfect this particular chicken sandwich,
Correct.
and all of a sudden you go to this hotel that you helped that you were booked through your renter's portal using your loyalty points,
Correct.
and we say, hey, there's a Chick-fil-A within a mile of your hotel location. Do you want that special chicken sandwich that you love? Those kinds of things are going to become commonplace. They're not today, especially for the rental community. So it's a big deal.
Got it. Could you explain now that I understood the context? Could you go back to the transactions? So how are you monetizing? You're monetizing through the number of transactions that your vendor ecosystem is doing on your platform. Is that how it is?
Yeah. So we effectively have deals worked out with all of our vendors and all of our suppliers that enable us to have that margin built in. Right. But we demand that anybody that wants to work with our ecosystem has the same mindset that we did when we first built our platform. And so it's a mandate that you either give points away, so basically you give discounts, or you give automatic discounts built into the price itself. So we have a very, very clear mandate when it comes to how we partner and how we build our ecosystem. And we're very, very focused on making sure that everybody that comes into it has the same narrative, the same mindset, that everybody can be appreciated. Everybody can have this sense of upward mobility, if you will.
Got it. So for a marketplace to succeed, usually you should have a good volume of addresses into your platform, right? So what's your market share? Like how many customers? What stage of growth is your company in? Maybe that would be an ideal question for you.
Yeah. So instead of giving away our customer numbers, what I will do is I will say that what we are focused on is mainly property managers below 1,000 units.
Got it.
And there are basically it makes up over 80% of the rental market, if you will. So we have done a really, really good job of appealing to those groups, and that has enabled us to also be very aggressive with our marketplace strategy and who we partner with and how fast we are able to grow on the services side as well. So before we even opened up REM to the general public, we had almost 10,000 service providers on the wait list. Wow,
nice. Do you screen the kind of providers that you bring to your platform? Like, is there a vetting process for them?
Yeah.
Could you shed some light there?
Yeah. So we screen everyone that comes into our platform. KYC is an extremely important thing that we wanted to avoid the same pitfalls that Airbnb and some of the other groups had faced when it came to people that weren't truly verified. Right. Like, sure, you could verify an address, but you can't verify the individual that is responsible for that address.
Right.
And so for us, we're pretty critical about how it is that we ensure the safety of everybody on our platform, because at the end of the day, we want people to win. And so if you're coming for illegitimate reasons, then you're not going to make it through. So we've got property managers, we've got service professionals, and then of course everybody that comes in as a renter is also going through that screening process themselves. So it's a very unique industry to be part of, because there are already KYC initiatives that take place, which is a huge win for I think everybody involved.
On the product side, so this seems like a super app that you're building, all right?
Yes.
So is this app the same app that the renter uses vis-a-vis the app that the property manager uses, or they have completely different products that they have installed?
So they're fully unified. However, they're separate apps that are actually leveraged. Yep. Putting, at least today, I haven't been able to see, and I would love any of your users, if anybody has a great idea, because I'm always trying to think about how to make things more efficient and easier. Sure. But if anybody would know how to put that many features and that much functionality into a singular app, please reach out. because that would be awesome. However, I haven't seen it yet.
Got it. So you have 2 apps for today.
That is correct.
Got it. Excellent. And my next question is a business question, right? So for a player like you, how many years has it been for in existence for you?
Yeah, so we started scribbling on a whiteboard about 6 years ago, but I will be honest when I say that, it took us nearly 5 of those to build all of those features and all of that functionality to actually fit that narrative. We could have bastardized this thing. We could have given up, if you will, on the business model itself very, very early and just started selling PMS, right?
Got it. Yes.
That would have been super. I mean, don't get me wrong, building that type of solution is hard, but it would have been much, much more difficult to begin trying to live out that full narrative today if we had.
And kudos to you, because yes, building yet another PMS is far simpler, even though it's hard, but it's simpler. Building a platform is a bold, but in the long term, I think you had the patience to go and wait, play a long term game, because platform wins eventually against any other business model. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think early investors, some of them, really found our approach extremely unappealing.
I can imagine. So what stage of funding are you in? Like, are you a scale up now, looking for funding? Maybe whatever you
Yeah,
can share
so
about your funding rounds.
yeah, totally. Thank you. So we are raising, I think, from the amount that technically we need, and what it is that we've taken in prior. We're still what could be considered a seed stage company, but having already built an entire platform with an expansive customer base across 5 markets now, and really just having a huge, bright, shining light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to some incredible partnerships and some groups that are now really vying for our success. So, yes, raising, but it's a unique fit.
Got it. Just curious, what do you mean by markets when you say 5 markets?
Well, technically, the way that we look at it is major metropolitan areas, but we also consider that by state as well.
Got it. This is a business question usually ask any new entrant, and since you said that after it took you 5 years,
Yeah.
so there are I mean, especially US is far ahead from the rest of the world when it comes to market maturity in solutions that has real estate solutions, and almost every customer that you approach already has an existing product. What is your strategy to go and convince your customers to strip away their existing solutions and try out your solutions? Like, usually, how do you convince your customers to buy your solutions when they're already using a competitive product?
Yeah, I mean, this has been such an incredibly big conversation in PropTech, right? For the last almost decade.
Right.
And the reality is that you have institutional players that are mainly the main drivers of innovation, unfortunately. And I say that loving our partnerships, loving the groups that we work with, but the reality is that even the venture capital groups that are backed by LPs with a focus in real estate are having a challenging time influencing those LPs and getting them to actually adopt these new innovations.
Right.
Especially when you start thinking about it, that there are only so many variants that you can add to a solution that all frankly have to work together, or else you end up driving in additional unknown complexities to an organization that doesn't want them. They worked 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years to literally mitigate challenge.
Right.
And so now you've got this new digital influence and innovation that is taking place that has been really difficult for them. And so for us, ultimately we had to really look at the market and say, okay, well, where is there more fluidity? Like where's there more flexibility, which in the smaller portfolio level,
Right.
there's greater flexibility, but it's also called long tail. And so how do you get into those very fragmented players
Right.
so that you can have those conversations,
Right.
conversations of meaning? Sending a cold email will not work.
Right.
Because when you start talking about a solution like ours, which is an operating system,
Right.
I mean, you're talking about ripping out historicals. You're talking about, if you have an existing system, that is,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
talking about, a big undertaking. And
Yeah.
so how do you influence that, market that may have a little bit more flexibility early on? And who are the players that can get you into that door in mass or at scale?
Right.
And what is the offering going to do from how compelling can you be against the other offerings that are being pushed on them every single day?
Right.
And for us, we looked at our business model and said, well, if we can make this for free, like if we can deliver this solution in such a way that we're reducing the barrier of entry significantly,
Got it.
then what are our other value propositions, and how can we make this also good for us?
Nice.
And so those are the types of things. But also I would go back to the fact that ecosystem is everything. In today's world, it could have been Leasera competing against Appfolio,
Right.
which I'm here to tell you that Appfolio is a powerful organization in this space. I respect them heavily when it comes to their ability to build and to innovate and to really continue to try and move the ball forward at a multi-billion-dollar level.
Right.
That's really, really hard. We are far more nimble. We're far faster with our services, and we started in an era where we could look at business models differently. And so it enabled us to just move more swiftly. And so we have a equally robust system where we can give institutional grade solutions to long tail groups that don't have to worry about unit economics.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can understand an independent player who is trying to plug into an existing PMS, okay, like a vendor. For them, it is easy because all you need is partnerships, and then you get into all the systems that are already there distributed.
Right. You have a client that basically forces them in.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
you are actually a platform, so they have to rip off all their existing systems before they can embrace you. And usually what happens is there is a 10x rule, which is a new product needs to be at least 10 times better for them to get rid of their existing systems.
Exactly. And I think that we dominate at that level, but it's still a matter of optics and understanding. And so for us, it's and something that we are continuously looking to try and do better is lots more webinars, lots more understanding, lots more education, and really being available, having that information accessible so that organizations can understand what they're getting into or what they're adopting.
Got it. So when you say webinars and education, what are the forums that you do? Like, are there institutional forums that you go and promote it? Where are the communities that you have to make your presence felt?
Yeah, so it's a lot of talking, because I think that it's really important that people understand and that you present enough content that people, have the ability to engage and the ability to understand in their very, very fragmented and hectic lives. Like life is frenetic, and you need to have the access to information when you need it, how you need it, on the device that you need it, and it could be at 2 a.m. And you better have that information available. And so that's something, again, that we have to continuously work on. But I would say that in PropTech, proof is everything. And so nobody wants to make a commitment to a solution that isn't proven to have those returns.
Okay.
And especially if you have the burden of 10x, then you better be pretty polished with your services, with your solutions, and with the business model, and be able to tell people, okay, well, these are the returns that we can expect based upon this transition. This is how much time we believe it's going to take to transition from this system to the other one, or to adopt a system for the first time, which is a great deal of our customers.
Right.
And so those are the kinds of things that we need to be really good at, and that everybody needs to be good at in this industry.
Got it. What about how powerful are the PropTech conferences and the trade fairs? Are the ROIs in these conferences and trade fairs good? I was very very curious about what the ROI is. So what is your opinion about making your?
I need to be careful because of some great relationships that we have across the industry, but conferences are tough. Because the reality is that you've got multi-billion-dollar players, regardless of what you're doing. Like almost regardless. Right. You've got multi-billion-dollar players, whether you're a point solution or a platform. And so you have those individuals that are coming to these conferences and spending, $20, $30, $50, $100,000 for a single conference.
So they will hog all the limelight, isn't it?
Oh,
because they have the power.
Yeah, you better come with some crazy ass gimmick or something that is just loud and that people want to talk about afterwards,
right?
Or just be really, really good at talking and be relentless on the sales floor. Right. So that would be my advice, because otherwise, it's tough.
But it's a catch-22 situation, right? Because if you ignore a conference, then you are making yourself completely invisible. So for a CEO, it's hard to find out the marketing budget, whether or not you should go to a conference and be there, even if you're not sure what the ROI is, because the booth fees are high. Sorry, I did not intend to ask these questions. It was just a stray thought that I wanted to ask.
No, I think it's a really important one, because people get locked into spending a great deal of money for really, really limited reward. And I think that it's important that you have to be very directed and very strategic about your presence at these things. Like there are some conferences that it'll just be me that shows up, just because I think it's important that people see myself, my brand, me as a brand, that is supporting a narrative. Maybe not necessarily just the company, but a narrative in our industry, and that we have those conversations, that I am present with, the players that expect to see you there. But I think that there are other conferences that you double down, and you have your salespeople, you have your, as big of a booth as you possibly can in the best location you possibly can have it. And that you're thinking about it as almost like a theater play. And I'm serious about that. Like, people want something to talk about. And you can walk by and you got everybody dragging swag off the table and putting it in their bags and, doing that normal thing. But is that really going to get somebody to talk about you?
Got it.
Like, what is that thing? And so I've seen a lot of different approaches, even so much to see two mascots. I won't mention the conference, but two mascot people dressed up snuck into a conference. They had passes, but you can't, you're not allowed to wear the costumes and stuff.
Got it.
Unless you're going to get a booth and do something specific for advertising. Right. This point solution snuck in, had 3 people that wore different costumes of their competitors, and they had a battle straight up in the middle of a pretty big audience that had been built up really fast, by the way. But they did a very, very funny job. And they ended up passing out flyers after this battle had been won by the company that, and it was actually, it's super silly, but it got people's attention.
Yeah, it was orchestrated. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And they did it on a budget, like, is what it is. Right. So I have a respect for those types of groups. Like, obviously, gimmicks are what they are, and maybe you don't respect them as much, but the reality is that how are you going to get noticed? And I think that's the most important thing that you need to focus on when it comes to spending money on conferences.
So if not conferences, if there is a new entrant in the market and they come to you for advice, okay, so you are an advisor to some of these who are not competitive to you, but in the similar space, and they are tight on budget. What are the smart ways to make your presence felt to your prospects and to the customers and to the market?
Yeah, I would say that you find really great partners. Again, I go back to that constantly. It's ingrained in me at this point. Ecosystem partnerships are everything, because at a certain point, you can spend all the money and all the SEO and all the pay-per-click and all that other stuff that you can create all the blogs. And I don't care if you're using ChatGPT to increase the amount of blogs that you're putting out. The reality is that partnerships sell even when you're not there. So when you start thinking about the fact that you have to blanket, and that in real estate, especially, other people's word is everything.
Right.
And the more people you have saying the same thing, the more sales that you're going to make.
Got it.
Unless those things are bad. So having partnerships that are in your circle, that are trusting you and trusting your service, those are the kinds of things that help an organization win. And those are the kinds of things that you should be searching for early on. How do I get into, if you're a point solution, how do I get into a platform? How do I get into an ecosystem that I can begin proving myself, and that in turn, they begin just straight up selling with their platform?
Right.
And if you're getting sales like that, then obviously your cost of acquisition is nothing.
Nice. Yeah, excellent. Cool. We got a marketing 101 session today, which was not expected. I just got curious because I usually, because building a product is easy. I mean, all you need is a few years development effort. But how do you sell? How do you make your presence felt? Okay, that is where, how do you get your growth curve going till people notice, is the biggest challenge, isn't it? So
and
thank you.
And I would add just that, it should be your customers that are helping you design whatever it is that you're building anyway. And so when it comes time to actually using that product, they should have the most incentive to do that. I mean, that's part of the reason we do, customer-based design or user-based design, is because you need those influential moments where, as a developer, designer, product manager, whatever it is, that you had this idea in mind and this problem for yourself that you wanted to solve, without really looking at the broader market and saying, okay, well, one, how are other people solving it already? And what's going to make that 10x improvement?
Got it. So in between a competitor and your customers, you tilt towards what your customers are asking for in the roadmap than blindly following a competitor's move, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it kind of goes back to the Henry Ford statement. I don't, for the audience, it was if I had asked people what they wanted at the time, they would have said a faster horse.
Yeah.
Well, it's the law of adjacent possibilities. And basically that law states that we're all using, Office 360, or we're all 365, excuse me, or we're all using, Outlook, or whatever it is that we're using, Superhuman. I mean, whatever type of solution that you're using today, it's kind of the same. They're all kind of this solution that is like every other major solution out there. And so as you and I are looking at a product or a problem that we have and wanting to create a product around it,
right,
we're all looking at it from a similar perspective. And that is a problem.
Right.
Instead of bringing industry leaders from all different kinds of verticals and
Right.
saying, how are you solving this kind of similar problem? Yeah, I know it's not the same industry. I know it's not the same product or whatever it is, but
Right.
you still face similar problems.
Right.
And so assembling that and saying, okay, well, what does that solution look like? Let's not worry about what property management software does,
Got,
works like, bills by.
got it.
Let's figure out what the future of renting looks like.
Right.
And that is a hard challenge. And it's, again, why finding support early on is a hugely difficult endeavor, because everybody looks at it and says, well, oh no, that's not a horse. That's not that faster horse I was looking for.
Mm.
This is something completely different. I don't fully understand it. I get why it might be helpful. And
Right.
so, again, when you start thinking about that kind of stuff, you have to just be very, very inclusive of new ideas, and you can't be married to how you get to that ultimate destination. You have to
Incrementally.
be
Yeah.
very, very flexible down that road.
Got it. So talking about the future of how the future of renting looks like, I think that is a good question discussion to end this podcast with. So I wanted to know, as a CEO, what is your vision in the next few years? Where do you see this space evolving? Okay, the rental ecosystem, and what is the future of this rental ecosystem that we are foreseeing in the years to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just far more unified, far more personalized, far more accessible. And through all of that, it's your consumer journey that is just far more appreciated. And I think that's a big deal, and I'm glad that we're finishing on this because it's important. It doesn't mean that we're taking money out of the pockets of property managers. It doesn't mean that we're making it, at all challenging for service providers to do what they do best and put them in the best seat to do it.
Mm.
And so when you start thinking about ecosystem, you start thinking about this very, very unified community of individuals that are all in groups that are all there under the same narrative, the same understanding that they're there to serve, and that they're there to be to have the access that they need to live that best life. And so through that, consumers will spend more of their wallet share within our platform. And I think that that's important, because they're already the ones that effectively drive renting forward.
Right.
They're the ones that spend that rent payment. And if it weren't for the consumer, we wouldn't have that industry. Investors wouldn't have an appreciating asset.
Got it.
So again, when you really have this significant alignment, where currently there's massive misalignment and fragmentation,
Right.
you really start seeing some incredible opportunity. And so I think that that's going to drive an immense amount of opportunity for service professionals to begin engaging in a market, and for us to begin looking at the renter demographic much differently as a far more powerful ecosystem of individuals. And that's really exciting to us. That's a big opportunity. Whether you're renting something for a day, renting something for a decade, maybe never want to purchase a property, but you still have the ability of investing in real estate. You still have the ability of donating to affordable candidates if you've got that philanthropic mindset. You still have service professionals that are able to deliver the most affordable services because they're not being nickel and dime on their way through into a marketplace. And because of that, property management becomes super easy. And so you actually have a really difficult industry. I hats off to every property manager out there, because your ability to have maintain a service mindset is really, really neat. And what we're here to do is not take away those responsibilities, but just make those responsibilities easier. You're gonna have your NPS scores, your net promoter scores for consumers are gonna go way up, because a system, an ecosystem, is picking up the slack where you can't, like where you shouldn't be. You should be
Right.
focused on the property, on appreciating that asset and really driving value. While an ecosystem of service professionals, you get the best dog walker or you get the best food delivery person, and
Right.
all of this, this rising tide is raising all ships.
Got
That's
it.
kind of the premise behind it. And that's going to be the future.
Excellent. Rising tide is raising all boats. That's a great way to end this podcast. Thank you, Barret, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and what Leasera is all up to. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. It's quite radical. I've spoken to a lot of PMS players, but I think what you're doing is quite novel and radical, and very, very curious to see how this journey goes ahead. So, with that, all the best to you, Barret, and thank you for being on the show.
Robbie, thank you so much for having me on there.
See you around, Barret.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.